I don't lean towards horror films at all. I saw The Exorcist, and that hit me so hard. It sort of scarred me forever.
Whatever you do, you only do because God allows it.
Did he allow that?
It's a true honor for me to be here. Just want to thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
One of the producers of The Pope's Exorcist described your involvement in this movie with the best explanation ever, which is who would be better to go toe-to-toe with the devil than the gladiator himself. And I want to ask you, Father Gabriel Amorth, which is a chief exorcist of the Vatican, you're playing a real person. You've done that before. But to do that in a horror movie, I think it adds like a spookiness in the experience. And I want to ask you about that. What did you learn about yourself after leading a horror movie? Because I know that you are not a big fan of watching scary movies.
No, I don't like them at all. I don't lean towards horror films at all. I saw The Exorcist when I was about 14. That hit me so hard. It sort of scarred me forever. But yeah, the core reason for me wanting to be involved in this is because of the story of the true man, Gabriel Amorth. What an incredible life he had, you know, and it was his life experience that made him a great priest, and then all of the things that he did as a priest, which gave him skills on board to become the exorcist that he did. In 36 years, he was in that role as chief exorcist for the Vatican. Now, obviously, I've used quite a bit of poetic license in the portrayal that I've given, but I think that there's core truths to it, you know. I drew things out of where he came from, his life experience prior to becoming a priest, what he achieved as a journalist and as an author of books. There's two things that protect Father Amorth in the job that he does. One of them is the purity of his faith. He just believes, and you can't stop him from believing, you know. And the second thing is his ability to connect to his own humanity and therefore everybody else's humanity. And with that is his sense of humor. So he might be facing down the devil, but he's not going to go at the devil with a sword. He's going to go at the devil with a quip, with a funny line, you know? Because as he says in his books and also in the movie, the devil doesn't like jokes. So to me, my interest was piqued by the truth of the man. And then, you know, talking with the director and the producers and being allowed to bring so much of his actual narrative, his real life story into the movie. You know, that and there's a kind of an Indiana Jones aspect to some of this. You know, when you start looking into the history of the church and the periods of the church where things have been a little darker and what have you, like specifically the Spanish Inquisition is the focus in this story. So that was just interesting. You know, I'm definitely a student of history. So those sort of two things, you know, the aspects of the man that I could see and read about and the sort of historical aspects, they became very compelling for me.
One more thing that I loved about the movie, which is you work with Peter de Souza. He's this amazing 12-year-old guy, and he impressed everybody in his audition with his voice as a devil and then his impressions of the father. What did you learn about him now that you have an amazing career, but you have these young actors that also give you something?
Yeah, it was. Peter was fantastic. He was really focused. But the funny thing about Peter is that he didn't like the days on set where he was just the normal boy. He preferred being the demon.
Okay.
He was really focused and really into the job, his first ever job, and I think he did an incredible performance. You know, and it was very difficult for me to be sitting there because they would put these things in his eyes. You know, I'd have to be sitting there for hours and hours, and this little beautiful boy, like with the eyes, saying weird stuff to me. It was a bit. Those days weren't great.
My faith does not require defense.